build ChatGPT. We're bringing the Vibbity vibes today, Wiz. I feel like you've got some serious vibes in store. Am I right?
Oh, we got vibes for days.
So there's a lot of talk about vibe coding these days, and it's not quite the same as what you need to do in your day job as an AI engineer, though, is it?
No, not quite the same at all.
Yeah. So this idea of AI assist, we're going to go deep into it today. And this idea of leveraging the right amount of AI assist to help you build, ship, and share production LLM applications like ChatGPT-Style ones. This is a really important topic. And we can actually see and feel the difference in your demos today. But there's also a lot of nuance between vibing yourself into a rabbit hole and developing software like a professional. And, what's the TLDR on all of this, Wiz?
Yeah, I mean, vibe coding is dope. Love that. But it's not really that interesting beyond that it's kind of dope. So you're gonna find that you hit a wall real early with vibe coding in a way that's undesirable.
And we can use it, though, as we'll see, to build ChatGPT.
Oh, that it can do. Yeah.
Even incorporating all the stuff we've built already in this series, like the ability to leverage the responses API, the ability to do RAG, maybe add a couple connectors, all of this, it can actually do this through some vibes.
Yes, it can. Heavily through vibes. You can get there. You can get there actually a number of different ways, which is pretty cool. So there you go.
Okay, I'm excited to see exactly how this all works out. We're going to talk through today vibe coding versus AI assist, building, shipping, and sharing ChatGPT in a variety of ways. You ready to kick off?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Welcome to How to Build ChatGPT. This is part 4, vibe coding and deployment. We're going to talk a little bit about each of these pieces today as we align ourselves to the session. If you spend the next hour with us, it's going to be a lot clearer to you where those fine lines are between vibe coding and AI assisted development. This is becoming more and more important, especially if you want a professional position on a true AI engineering team doing stuff in production. And then we also want to see exactly how we can build and deploy a ChatGPT style application, whether we're using something that feels very, very low code or something that is a little more aligned with most of the stuff we do on this channel, which is down in the weeds. The tooling is always changing, and we're going to give you a state-of-the-art peek at the best tooling for the job today, using a number of different kind of slightly more AI-assisted techniques. And so we'll vibe code, and we'll deploy an AI app. We're going to use Vercel. We will also opt for a fast API backend on our particular build, but you'll see exactly how all of this can work with a number of different tool stacks. So let's introduce vibe coding properly first, before we talk about how it is in fact becoming a thing. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we should be thinking about our end-to-end front and back application stack before we see Wiz's pretty awesome demo today. Please ask questions along the way. If you have questions at any time, throw them directly into the YouTube live chat or directly into the comments on your viewing platform. First of all, vibe coding, we really can source this idea. We can see who brought this to kind of the fore of our public consciousness. The OG, Andrei Karpathy himself, kind of dropped this banger in February. Vibe coding. where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget the code even exists. I'm building a project or a web app, but it's not really coding. It's not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and copy paste stuff. And it mostly works. It's not really coding. Now, this was popularized shortly thereafter in a very, very fun book, piece of writing, piece of art, piece of vibes called The Way of Code by Rick Rubin. Now, this was inspired by the doubted Ching that he kicks this thing off. I read this book 40 years ago, and it changed my life forever. And so the way of code is sort of getting its vibes from the book of the way. Let's take a look. This is, I think, part of what's in our public consciousness about vibe coding. Right or wrong, awesome or indifferent, however you feel about it, this really did help set the tone. What is this book? When we recognize code as elegant, other code becomes sloppy. When we praise efficiency, the notion of waste is born. We're getting into some deep opposites here. Being and non-being create each other. Simple and complex, long and short, high and low. Front end and back end. Let's go. Therefore, the vibe coder builds without laboring, instructs by quiet example. The work is done and then forgotten. That is why it lasts forever. So this book is filled with DAO-inspired vibes like this. And at the end, Rick reminds us this is how art creation always happens. Starts with a prompt, a seed. And we saw thereafter, Rick's going around, he's dropping this. He is the meme, right? 15 rules of vibe coding. Enjoy the process, just vibe. But also there's details that matter to us as developers. Use agent mode. Copy errors and paste into Composer agent. Don't forget you can restore the previous Composer chat. As it started to gain steam, we started to hear more from leading people in the engineering sphere, not just in the art and creativity sphere like Rick. This is from Simon Willison. He wrote a kind of important weblog here on March 19th. I'm concerned that the definition is already escaping its original intent, he says. Vibe coding is not the same thing as writing code with the help of LLMs. I'm seeing people apply the term vibe coding to all forms of code written with the assistance of AI. I think that both dilutes the term and gives a false impression of what's possible with responsible AI-assisted programming. He outlines when it's okay, if the projects are very, very low stakes, if you've done your considerations of security, of not leaking your API keys, of keeping users' data private, being a good network citizen, and really making sure you're not literally letting people attack not just your app, but your cache, like Leo here. Ever since I started sharing how I built my SaaS using Cursor, random things are happening, like maxed out usage on my API keys and much more. There was a lot of this stuff happening at the time and probably still happening today. Simon also pointed out that there were these two book publishers, a couple months later, he points this out, that produced vibe coding texts. And as he says, they fail spectacularly to understand what the term vibe coding means. They fail spectacularly to help him understand what they mean by the term vibe coding. Now, Simon, if you don't know, he's the kind of guy that gets invited to check out GPT-5 first. And so, he's been in the game a long time, and he continues to be a thought leader in the sphere. He's kind of pushing for this AI assisted development. And this is something we've talked about a lot on this channel, that a vibe coder is not going to take your job, but an AI assisted developer probably will. And we've talked about the process of AI assisted development before as well. We want to really set ourselves up for success. If we're using a tool that's going to help us with vibe coding, we want to make sure that we have connected the sort of important documentation that our coding agent will need. We want to make sure we set up specific rules that are associated with our workflows and the way we do things. We want to understand what we're building and why. We want to set out a plan to do that. We want to do testing. We want to do code review. And importantly, we want to understand what the heck is going on. We want to be able to read the code ourselves and really have that human expertise. And of course, when we think about tooling for this, Cursor is the number one thing that comes to mind. The AI code editor built to make you extraordinarily productive. The best way to code with AI. Now, is it for all circumstances? I think that's part of the point today, is that we need to be asking questions like this. This is from January. Our approach is to build the engineer of the future, a human AI programmer, an order of magnitude more effective than any one programmer. Cursor today is the very start of that. That was 8 months ago. So they have continued to increase their capabilities and move towards their longer term ambitions, including this entirely new form of programming where invention is effortless. It is already used by many more programmers than the millions that were using it in January. But Cursor's not the only dog in town. We also see other AI-enabled coding agents, even these fully autonomous software engineers. And the lines are starting to blur more and more. Devon, the AI software engineer from Cognition AI, will help you crush your backlog with your own personal AI engineering team. Is it an engineer or is it an engineering team? This is from September. This month, Cognition raised a ton of cash, over $400 million, to build the future of software engineering. And in that press release, they sort of told us last March when we launched Devon, it wasn't clear that this future would ever become a reality. Today, that's clearer. Agents are already doing real work alongside individual developers within large enterprise engineering teams. As with many technologies throughout history, what first seemed a fringe theory quickly became an obvious reality. And of course, the Cognition team acquired famously Windsurf, doubling their annual recurring revenue in a crazy move where they didn't really acquire the leadership, but they acquired the entire body of engineers. Now, interestingly, if we consider Windsurf, their wave-inspired logo, the form in the logo, they told us it's more than just a shape. It's a feeling. It echoes how ideas move when there's no friction, fluid and forward. Very vibes-focused Windsurf was. And we continue to see progress from tools like Claude Code, that more and more people are talking about all the time, certainly in our circles at AI Makerspace, and Codeex, which seems to be shipping like a bunch of legends, the Codeex team. Of course, Codeex is hard to follow. We've talked about Codeex on this channel before. Codeex is generally the brand at OpenAI for agentic coding. And so you want to think about Codeex as this kind of agent that can kind of do its own work in its own computer. And it can also be able to meet you in any of the tools you use wherever you work. So it starts to become like, what exactly is AI assisted development? And where does vibe coding fit in? We've talked about agents on this channel a lot. And we like to talk about these as systems that can leverage or emulate reasoning to make dynamic decisions in an application flow. Famously, last week, known about town, Simon said, I think agent may finally have a widely agreed enough upon definition to be useful now. An LLM agent that runs tools in a loop to achieve a goal. As Wiz reminds us, we've got another agents or loop riding tool using LLM's definition to work with here. So a lot of people are looking at this, they're thinking about this. If we return to Simon's vibe coding web blog from March, it's kind of interesting. He reminds us that using LLMs for code responsibly is not vibe coding. The job of a software developer is not just to churn out code and features. We need code that demonstrably works, can be understood by other humans and machines, and will support continued development. We also need to read the code. His golden rule for production quality AI assisted programming is that he won't commit any code to his repo if he couldn't explain exactly what it does to somebody else. This is a great, interesting line here. If an LLM wrote the code for you and then reviewed it, tested it thoroughly, and made sure you could explain how it works to someone else that's not vibe coding, and made sure you could explain, it's software development. The usage of an LLM to support that activity is immaterial. Now, we've covered Codeex and autonomous software engineers on this channel before. And, when you sort of look and see how you're supposed to use one of these autonomous software engineers, you sort of submit the description of what you want it to do. While it runs, it's going to do a bunch of stuff. And then you should be reviewing the output. We're sort of, this sort of helping you understand so you could explain what it does to other people in the future. Maybe that's part of the AI assist as well. So we can sort of extend this idea of an agent to this idea of a coding agent. And this is important because although we can use them to vibe, I think what's more useful to think about is we should be using them. Yes, they're leveraging reasoning to make dynamic decisions in an application flow, but that application flow is designed to produce working and functional, potentially even production level code. And there's different levels of producing code. There's different levels of agency that we might have over it, from fully manual to searching, the kind of level 2, the Stack Overflow search, to using Copilot, to just literally leveraging ChatGPT. And we've kind of started to get into this interesting space now. Last time we talked about this, we had Cursor and Windsurf here. And as we've mentioned already, Devon has acquired Windsurf. So we've also added another layer of CLI because Cursor is now not just leveraging other people's CLI tools. Cursor has built in their own CLI tools. So we start to see kind of unification of coding agency at each level of the code help stack. Where are the vibes? Where is AI assist? And by the way, we also talked about this idea of teams, this AI teams piece. Devon is being sold as an entire team now, not just a software engineer. So, it's worth asking, like, how far away are you from the actual work being done, the actual scoping, planning, reasoning, coding, explaining what the code does? So, Wiz, let's have a little discussion here about AI assist and vibe coding. First of all, are they the same? And if not, where's the line?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not the same. So one of the things I would implore people to think about is vibe coding should be something that is Simon Wilson's point is always great. Karpathy's original definition of vibe coding was great. All of these things were great, which is that it's for like your mom. That's what it is. Like it's for people who don't kind of actually uh do this stuff full time, I guess is what I would say.
Mm.
That is the crux, right? Vibe coding is for like anybody. You just type into the machine and the machine does stuff, and so that's the idea. Now AI assisted development is like you're a developer and you're using AI to assist you, right? You should know. It should not be globally accessible, right? Like to Simon Wilson's point, like it should not require that you understand code. You should be able to type in the magic box and then get an app out, right? Like that's vibe coding. AI assisted development is you have an awareness of the system you want to create. You understand the technology. You're using AI to augment you, right? You're using it to take you to the next level so that you have to write less boilerplate or you have to write less, lines of code about XYZ or, all of these other things. Like that's the idea of AI assisted development, where you're in the driver's seat with respect to code. Vibe coding is that you are not in the driver's seat with respect to code. You're only in the driver's seat with respect to idea, right? Everything else is who cares.
I'm almost getting this, you're driving in the robo-taxi versus driving your own car kind of thing. Like it's like you're being whisked away versus you have real actual agency over the way things are changing and unfolding in front of you. So if we think about kind of this maturity of the AI industry, we think about the maturity of especially the AI engineering role, and we think about this kind of transition, whether it's somebody who's already a developer or somebody who wants to become a developer, they're going to have to kind of make their own transition from either starting to understand vibe coding and then integrating it into their current workflow and stack, because vibe coding seems like it's at least a part of becoming an AI assisted developer, or you're going to have to start from zero, in which case you're basically like your mom right now, and you have to start somewhere. So you're going to start with vibe coding, but then you've got to learn how to become a developer through that lens. So I mean, what are you seeing in terms of this transition that the industry is making and that you would encourage individuals to make from vibe coding to AI assisted development? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey into incorporating vibe coding.
Yeah, so I don't vibe code these days except for like events like this or in class where like we're trying to teach people how to vibe code, right? Like there's no for me vibe coding is not useful at all if you're a software developer, if you have development background. If you don't, it's the best thing in the world, right? Because now you can code. It's so cool. You can make apps just by typing in the box. I mean, hell yeah. But the transition is you have to be more thoughtful, right? You have to set up, you have to think like a senior engineer when you're producing your scaffolding, your initial kind of components. You have to think about, how AI is going to interpret your intent, right? Intent driven development. You have to set up the background. So your agents.md files, you have to pause at every single diff and only use AI to add very focused, very small features, and to encourage it to use best practice development, and to encourage it to write tests, and to and on, right? Like this is the idea is all of this stuff that you would normally do, instead of just doing it like once or entirely by yourself, you get AI to help you do it. You can do it a lot more. Like instead of writing 2 unit tests, why not write all of them actually, right? Something that everyone hates doing in practice, but now you can just get your good friend who never complains AI to help do this for you, right? Like this is the idea. You have to look at all the tools you have access to and then fully leverage them, not just the code
So
generation.
sticking with that point, okay,
Yeah.
then if we say vibe coding is not really necessary, but AI assist is, and we consider this wide range of potential AI assist tools that we have access to, how do we select the right tool for us? Is it just Cursor? If I'm more advanced, do I use a CLI tool? If I'm less advanced, do I use an autonomous software engineer? How are you using these in your daily workflows? Are you just using GitHub Copilot because that's all you're allowed to do at work? How can people kind of choose the right tool for the job when it comes to AI assist?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the bajillion dollar question, right? For me, all I can do is talk about what I do. For me, I have a workplace that permits the use of AI assisted development, and so I'm lucky in that regard. So I have access to Claude Code, and so I use Claude Code. That's my favorite AI assisted development tool. In class, so when we run the boot camps, we use Cursor because it's very, very, you can see the code changes in the same window, right? You're not just in the CLI. You're not, taken out of your normal flow. It's like one box that does it all, right? And I like Cursor. I mean, it's a good tool.
Yeah.
It is proficient at the job. At the workplace though, Claude Code.
And we've
Uh,
heard from learners, like they love Cursor too,
oh yeah,
right? And
and
so,
Command K, right? You can just ask
right.
questions about whatever you're looking at. Command L, you can just type with the agent, right? You can spin up these background agents. You can do all of this stuff right from your IDE, right? Which is something that people are used to using. I would say that, when it comes to using these tools, it's kind of like the classic. If you're already deep into development, maybe you'll like something like Claude Code or Codex, right?
Mm.
If you're not, if you're getting into it, if you're beginning your journey, Cursor is going to feel better. It's going to feel closer to what you might expect, and it's going to let you really be in the same environment as your code in a visual way, right? Not just like a
Yeah,
logical
if we
way.
even go up levels from that, though, if we even
Yeah.
go up to the autonomous software engineer level, and then up to even maybe even lower code level than that, right? As we're sort of getting started. I mean, and I think you've got a little bit to show us on the demo for even lower code possibilities here. But
Yes.
like, when do I pick up a Devon? I mean,
You know what? I don't know. I,
yeah.
I haven't found use for Devon yet. I know loads of people are using Devon. Loads of people like ASWEES. It's got, people are paying dollars for it. I think if I'm on it, I could imagine using it if I were starting a company today and I did not have access to developers,
Mm.
right? If I myself was not a developer, I could figure, Devon. Okay,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Right. I don't have a
I need
CTO, Devon.
I need
Yeah.
seven I need 7 devs. I got 0 Devon. But other than that, I don't see it. I'm a firm believer in AI assisted development. Devon feels a lot more like a suite, right? This is a team member that you're dealing with. This guy is going to be your programmer,
Yeah,
right?
I guess the analogy is like, when do you replace a human with a robot, right? Like literally in the manufacturing floor, right? It's like, probably you got to be doing a lot of volume and you got to have your processes super dialed for that robot to be working all the time. Otherwise, like, yeah, is it really worth the investment? If it's a super low investment, maybe try renting it for a couple of days or a month, see how it goes. But yeah, it's a very interesting space, and I think we'll leave it there for right now. But um, it's basically, Cursor is a great starting point if you want to be a dev. CLI tools, a little bit. If you're a little bit more advanced, maybe you don't need the whole thing. Maybe you can get maybe you can just stay kind of compact in that space. You're probably leveraging at least some version of VS Code anyways, some level of autocomplete anyways. But really, I think this key is like understand. It's the same thing with writing anything, I guess, with these AI tools. Can you understand what you wrote? Because if not, you probably shouldn't be submitting it anywhere, including into PRs. So, all right, good stuff. Let's get into the demo piece here. Time to introduce end to end. Let's build, ship, and share ChatGPT today, guys. We've looked at ChatGPT before, and from a front-end development perspective, this is a very simple app. Is it actually that simple to code up with even very, very low code tools? We'll find out. As we think about the stack, we want to think about kind of the role it has in AI engineering. We want to build, deploy, operate, and improve LLM apps in production. And so leveraging the LLM application stack, this is one way we can kind of visualize everything we've done so far in this series. The stack is, of course, leveraging putting the right stuff in context. This in-context learning design pattern is what people are talking about when they're talking about doing context engineering, whereas Dex Horthy will remind us everything that makes agents good is context engineering. And so what does the end-to-end stack look like? Well, if we think about this overall ecosystem of tools, we can kind of build something very simple. And this is something that we encourage everybody to start with something called the AI Engineer Challenge. Can you build and host a simple app that just wraps an LLM? You can leverage something like the OpenAI Python SDK and any OpenAI model to just build this. Now, we, in this series, have leveraged the Responses API from part 1. We've also built in agents with the Agents SDK. In any case, we're using OpenAI libraries to orchestrate in the middle. When we go to host the app, we can actually host our application on Vercel. And it's kind of interesting that when we host, we are going to choose to kind of leverage a fast API backend, but we don't really have to in general. Vercel is like a full hosting service that they'll take care of that for you if you'd like. But as developers, we want to kind of be able to see what's going on back there. We want to be able to kind of understand what's happening. And Vercel is built by the makers and creators of Next.js. And this is often a very easy way to spin up through vibes a great front end. Of course, front end development is an art and science in and of itself. We're talking about vibe coding for front ends today, because if you're a front end developer and you really want to build out a front end that truly scales in production, there's a lot more depth there that kind of needs to go beyond vibe coding and into proper front end AI assisted development. That's beyond the scope of what we talk about here. I want to connect this to other parts of the series, though, literally by thinking about how we need to connect this whole thing to the information that our users need. And this is the idea that we covered in part 2 of RAG, where we're doing retrieval and then generation. And as we saw then, we can actually kind of not have to go through this embedding model and vector store process, but rather we can replace that directly with the Responses API. And in fact, we don't really even need to build out anything other than just giving our application the file we want it to put in context. And we also saw that we could take this even further, and we could do retrieval with any number of MCP servers just by using simple connectors. that kind of can be visualized up here, essentially bringing in this contextual data. But we don't have to chunk our data and run it through embedding models and put it in vector DBs. We can kind of just use the responses API to kind of allow us to do this retrieval based on the user query and then generation to potentially get really great outputs. And so if we think about, we can also then connect not just to files and our own personal data, but to other APIs, to other MCP servers, to other tools, tool calling, function calling, toolboxes of different access to different up-to-date data. That is also covered by the responses API. And this is where we talked about connectors and MCP in part 2 as well. Now, when we put all this together, we essentially have a UI that starts to become a little bit more robust. We want to be able to add stuff like photos and files. Let's zoom in a little bit. Photos and files here, or we want to be able to connect specific MCP servers here or here, for instance. And maybe we actually want to be able to do agentic search, which we covered in part 3 directly from the toolbar, or even do a little bit deeper search with deep research tools. So before we get into today's demo, Wiz, I just want to have a quick discussion on a couple of points. First of all, how hard is it really to develop like a ChatGPT style front end? This is fully vibes. So presumably, your mom or dad could do it.
Yes. Your mom and dad could do it. Yeah. Absolutely. With some effort, but they could do it.
And then when it comes to deploying the back end, is it also just as easy today with AI Assist and with tools like Vercel that are out there?
Yeah. I mean, it's not tough. And these kind of zero code platforms they do a job, certainly. So would I say it's like the best job? Hey, but they do a job. Is it hard to deploy? No, of course. One line, one command deployment is a
One click
standard.
deploy, we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
Now it's pervasive.
It's everywhere.
Okay. And when we think about front end and back end tooling, you're going to show us a couple different tools. But how can we think about choosing the right tool for the right job with the right level of autonomy, whether we're doing front end or whether we're doing back end, whether we're doing, if we're doing a quick prototype, probably less serious. We can go a long way with vibes or with a low code tool. But if we really want to put something into production, classically, it's more serious. Should we kind of just leverage that same kind of hierarchy of cursor, maybe Claude Code style later, or are there specific things that we should be looking into on the front end and the back end beyond the AI assist tools themselves?
I don't think so. I mean, the whole point of this, right, is that you just need vibe coding. So what you should focus on is the vibe coding piece. Everything else that you need, especially if you're using some of the options we're going to show off, are like even less. I mean, it tells you what extra tools you need. Like there's a button that comes up and it asks you to input information, right? So any additional tooling is just going to be fully given to you. Yeah.
So I guess food for thought for everybody is like how do you really make sure that you're doing a job that is not going to be automated, right? If you're a front end dev, if you're a back end dev today, like what should you be doing? Should you be, just doing more volume of tickets, or should you just be understanding the larger code base more holistically? Like, to Nathan's point in the chat, it's like, okay, I can just have it explain the code to me in 2 seconds. It's like, all right, that's true. So how is it that people can create value as humans in code today?
Yeah, I mean, this is an impossible question to answer, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's kind of food for thought for everybody, but
yeah, but in my impression, in my my experience of life, uh, the world has never been about how fast can you code, or what number of lines of code can you produce, right? It's always been about can you get to solution the fastest, and I think that you know AI is really good at producing big lines of code. You know what I mean? Like that's what it does. But we are still the best way to get there the fastest, because we know things that AI doesn't have in its context window because we have lives of context windows. And until that changes, right? Until everything's in the context window all the time, a software engineer's career worth of information is in the model's context, right? I think they're just always going to be a little bit. They're going to need us to nudge them a lot. I mean, it's the most excellent question
yeah. I mean,
at this time.
I don't want to. I know we
Yeah.
got to get to the demo here.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
Everybody should think about it, right? If AI assist can do it, what the hell are you doing? Okay, with that,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get into the demo. Wiz, vibe coding ChatGPT, front to back. Let's go. Off to you.
Let's go. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the real, actual, factual ChatGPT. So this is like the real one. This is not the vibe coded ChatGPT. This is the one that exists on their website. Classic. It's got a lot of buttons, right? You can do lots of stuff. You do all these things. We're going to focus on a very specific subset of features for our demo today because there's a lot going on that we haven't really talked about when it comes to responses API or how to build ChatGPT. But adding files, okay, yeah, it makes sense. You can add files or whatever. Some kind of agent mode, some kind of deep research mode. Okay, it makes sense. Connectors, fine. So let's go to our ChatGPT. So our ChatGPT looks like this. First of all, the first thing you'll notice is that it doesn't look as polished, right? Like, I mean, it could use some work, but it's all vibed up. So we can fix that with some vibes, share some screenshots. It's got a deep research button. So we have this research button. Now, this is not deep research. You notice it says just research enabled. Very important piece of information there. And then we have this little clippy emoji we can click to add files to our session. And this is going to allow us to ask questions like, who is the author, of this paper? And what this is going to do is it's actually going to use the responses API RAG that we learned, last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry. And then it's going to answer the question. A few things you'll notice. We're looking at some dots that don't move. We're not seeing a streamed response, right? So this is already we can start to imagine, okay, we know how we can make this better. We know how we can extend this. We know how we can change this. There you go. Now, the good thing about this particular version is that it was done in cursor. So we know what the code looks like. We got to review every piece of code. We got to look at every single piece of code. And that makes us very happy. Now, we're going to look at that code in just a minute. But for this moment, what we're going to do is we're going to see what other tools do with the same kind of prompt. And so what we have here is we have Lovable. Lovable is basically it can create this web application using the prompts. So you can see here, we have a chat history where we started with create a ChatGPT clone with file uploads and a simple deep research agent, right? And then just a bunch of stuff happened. We vibed it up, and we get to this absolutely glorious application with new chat button. We have research AI trends, upload docus. We got a writing assistant. We can do research mode, right? Look at all these toggles and stuff. You love that. Of course, file uploads to talk to our documents. This is the idea, right? And that took absolutely no effort at all. We just said, hey, do it, and then it did it. We got this. Now, here's a great question. Hello, how are you? Does it work? No. Okay, so that's obviously something that we're going to need to spend some time vibing with, right, in order to get it to work. Now, I have asked it just to be sure. I have said it's still not working, and it still doesn't work despite it having fixed everything. So perhaps we're seeing where vibe coding can let us down a little bit. And then we go to our ChatGPT clone from Vercel v0. Now, notice with Vercel v0, we get a very similar-ish UI, right? It's very ChatGPT. I mean, say what you want about whether or not it works, it looks like ChatGPT. Something else that we have is this, again, deep research mode, right? So we can toggle on deep research mode. We have a research specialist and a data analyst. We have 2 different depths of research we can do, quick and thorough. Very cool. What it shows us what tools it has access to. Very cool. We can also upload files if we wanted to do that. Awesome. And it does allow us to chat. Hey there, how are you? And we should get a response. Look at that. We get a response. So that's good. And again, it's got these new chats. So we can click around in new chats. This is all vibed up, right, from V0. So this is dope, but we don't really have line of sight to the code, right? We don't have the direct ability to understand the code. Like, we can toggle into these very verbose .ts files, so TypeScript files, right, and kind of have an understanding. But for the most part, this is a solution that we're going to chat with it until it works the way we want. And so we're going to go to now Cursor, and we're going to look at what we did to get to the app that, in my humble opinion, works the best in that it actually works, which is an important thing to see. You'll notice the same thing. We're just using agent mode, right? We're vibe coding it up. This says we just need research and add photos and files, modify the back end. Very cool. Okay. We have this chat history. We can look through all of the changes that happened, and we can see kind of everything that went on. This is great. However, most importantly, all we had to do in order to get our working front end, right, with our agent backend and the RAG connector from Responses API, right? What we did is we can literally take the repo we already had, which is our OpenAI Responses API repo. This is the one we've been working out of. And then I just added the AI Engineer challenge to it. I just literally dragged and dropped all the files from the AI Engineer challenge, which are already set up to produce a Vercel application, right? And then I said, hey, make it work with Responses API and do the stuff that I want. And it did. So what we're going to do is we're going to ignore looking at front end. This is 100% vibes. I'm not a front end dev. We can look at one of these files and see, oh yeah, there's some JavaScript here. You know what I mean? Not my expertise. I'm just going to trust in the AI overlords for that one. But we can look at our app and we can see what it's done in order to get us what we needed. You'll notice it's done a lot. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So we're going to look at very quickly kind of, how this happened. Number one, we're going to see that we have our agents SDK in. This is dope because we just did agents SDK last week, right? We have some fast API app. We have some classic cores, middleware stuff. You need that. Without it, you'll have a sad day. We have our uploaded files metadata and user vector stores. We have our chat request based model. This is looking pretty familiar, right? Like this is the kind of thing that was in the OpenAI SDK, section of this event. So there you go. We have create file. You'll notice that the create file is creating this file actually on OpenAI. So it's not using like some persistence via Postgres or something like that. It's like straight up using the Responses API file creation, right? Client.files create. Then we can create a vector store using the same thing with our client.vector stores create. all we have to do is save our vector store ID in our user vector stores so that we can reference it later when we're making a change. We can also add files to our vector stores. Of course, we can chat, right? We can perform research if it's requested. Very cool. We have this generate, very cool. You'll notice that this generate has access to our vector stores. If we have a vector store, we're going to use the vector store. Very neat. The code goes on and on, but the idea is that this is literally just an extension of the actual responses API and the agents SDK, right? That's what's powering, that's the back end, right, for this application, is those tools we've already learned. And the reason this is important is because that means that the front end is just a wrapper for those things, right? And so you can see already we've built up research, we've built up RAG, and we can just keep adding, right, to the backend. We can add new endpoints with new functionality, right? As we move to a more robust solution, we can add things like OAuth, right, in order to get your Gmail and your calendar connectors through the OpenAI responses connectors patterns. All of this is just using exactly the code we used from these notebooks and then wrapping a nice ish front end around it, and that's the idea. That's the whole thing. We're going to go back to Greg to close out here. Before we do, though, I gotta do the thing. Please, like and subscribe and ring the bell notification. We do these every single Wednesday, rain or shine, and so happy to do them and excited to keep diving into this. How do we build ChatGPT ourselves? How do we eventually wind up with something, reasonably performant? There you go. All right.
Thanks, Wiz. And if you do have a friend that you think could benefit from this content, please go ahead and send it their way if they're looking to build ChatGPT today. So, Wiz, if I wanted to add like another feature, like we'll do certainly in the next part of this series, how hard is it going to be to add that as a new front end feature? Pure vibes?
Yeah.
Add this?
Pure vibes.
Easy. So
the front end piece is pure vibes.
Yeah.
I'm not a front end developer.
Yeah.
I don't know JavaScript or React or Svelte or whatever. I don't even know what Next.js I think it's using, right? Not my forte, not the thing I care about. 100% only vibes.
Yeah. And then in terms of AI engineering roles, would you say that's typical for them? You don't really need to be a front end dev to get an AI engineer role.
100%. Your company has front end developers who are super good at their jobs.
That's right.
That doesn't mean that you can't be a front end dev that upskills into AI and have both skill. Hey, that's not bad. But the idea is that if you're working at a company that's got front end devs, front end hasn't really changed much. It's still front end. You still build dope looking performant applications. The thing that's changed is how we wire up the back end, right? Like
that's sort of like adaptive front end. Oh, you asked this question, let me make it this color. Kind of like that. I mean, hey, we're going towards a wide.
That's the cool stuff.
Incredible future. But yeah, today not a lot of jobs out there for that. Okay, thanks, Wiz. Let's go ahead and wrap up. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you guys have them, please feel free to ship them our way. We hopefully gave you guys a good overview today on vibe coding. So if this is your first series with us, how to build ChatGPT, we hope that you understand now vibe coding is not the same as AI assisted development. And really in 2025 and beyond, you have to want to be a developer to be a developer. I think this is one of the things that we ran into with vibe coding is people thought you could kind of just get away with it. Well, actually, no, that's not true. That said, if you don't care about being a developer, you're just a product manager, you're an engineering leader, being able to vibe code something up is still a useful, nice to have, but you're not going to get the depth by doing that that's going to allow you to demand that high salary for being able to code apps. This is just the reality of where we are today. Vibe coding a front-end interface that's ChatGPT-Style, it's a relatively simple interface, is actually trivial. And you'll notice, though, that depending on which tool you use and how you use it, you're going to get different sorts of results. And the line between vibe coding and AI assist is one we should all be considering as developers. Which tools are we picking up off the shelf to use? Which ones are we helping us to really find that real value creation for our careers, for our companies? How do we go beyond not just vibes, but beyond AI assist into that stratosphere as developers of stuff that you uniquely as a human could do with all the stuff in your lifetime's context window? So with that, we want to go ahead and thank you everybody for coming. I don't still see any questions in the chat, so we're going to go ahead and wrap now. Thanks everybody for joining us for another session at AI Makerspace. We are on a mission to build the world's leading community for people like you who want to build, ship, and share production LLM applications, not just low-code stuff based on vibes. If that's you, we'd love for you to join our cool, competent community of practitioners from around the world. We almost have 3,000 people in the Discord. So join in, start making connections with other folks who are trying to get on the path or are already on the path, maybe a bit further down than you today. We'd love to see you in there. And if you're looking for a way to get started heading down the path, we have a very special announcement. We have a brand new course that we've just launched. You can be one of the very first signups. It's called the AI Engineer On-Ramp. I will be teaching it with our up-and-coming instructor, Kat GPT Gawthorpe, PhD. She's going to be running it with me directly. This is going to be a 5-week course that's going to allow people to get up to the point of being able to build, ship, and share their very first end-to-end application. This is one of the key bottlenecks we've identified in people who think they want to get on the path and are not sure how to start, or who think they might want to get on the path and definitely don't know how to start, or people who need to lead teams of coders and want some skin in the game. So if that's you, if you know somebody like that, please let them know about the brand new AI Engineer On-Ramp. Kicks off October 20th. And with that, thank you so much for joining us for another weekly Wednesday live session at AI Makerspace. We'll be back next week talking about the next chapter in our How to Build ChatGPT saga. I believe the next one we're doing is on thinking and reasoning. And we'll talk about how to build that kind of capability in. Maybe we'll cover a few different capabilities if that one feels a little bit too easy. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Until then, keep building, shipping, and sharing, and we'll do the same. Have a good week, guys.
But Greg, how do they get started building, shipping, and sharing?
Getting started is the hardest part, like it was for you and for me. You can get started with the AI Engineer Challenge, and you can share it in the Build, Ship, Share channel on Discord. Links in the description. What if they want to accelerate their ability?
Well, we actually have a 10-week intensive bootcamp where you learn to build, ship, and share production-ready LLM applications every single week.
The AI Engineering Bootcamp, cohort starting soon. We'll have you building, shipping, and sharing
like a legend
in no time. We'll see you in class.